Alright, so even if we're just talking about movies and all that stuff with not a whole lot of flair, I still do what I can to put as much effort into that as I can, but it's really nice that now we're doing a video where I feel like the pressure is just totally off because this clearly, without a doubt, is a video that nobody will see whatsoever because I don't know anybody that cares even a little bit about either one of these movies. So, so I could literally say or do pretty much anything in this video, and I don't believe it will really see the light of day much at all. So that's actually very comforting going into this, and it kind of feels like we can just, you know, bullshit about the two of them really quickly, not even really spend a whole lot of time on them, because there's really not a reason to spend a whole lot of time on them. Both of these movies are just here and just existing to a crowd of nobody. So let's, I guess, start with the 355. Because, as you know, Scream pretty much started off 2022 for probably all of us. So we've got to kind of keep the new year kind of rolling on. So that's really the only reason I'm even doing this, or even watched these, and saw them. So let's do that. So yeah, let's start with the 355, which there was a part of me that was kind of interested because I always have hope when it comes to Chastain. Like obviously I don't love everything she's done, but there's always this glimmer of hope that there's going to be something to it because she's so committed to what she does, and I'm sure she was committed to this too, in one way or another. And it was also interesting. Everybody was like, the trailer had come out, and everybody was saying like, "Oh, did you see that new trailer? It looks so bland. It looks so generic." And you can tell it's a January movie, like it's one of the first of the year, because of course it is. And so I looked at the poster, at least, and I thought it had a pretty decent poster. Like, when you think about what it probably is for this action movie or whatever, we had, like, Chastain and Diane Kruger and Lupita and Penelope Cruz and Fan Bingbing, and obviously they're all from different nationalities, and how they have, like, the flags behind them to represent each one, and it's like, it's a pretty decent poster, and I was like, maybe it won't be that bad? I don't know. Because you see them, and you see, you know, a decent poster, and it's like, it could be fine. They could carry it enough, because these are all really talented people here. Especially with Chastain, like, front and center. And, like, Sebastian Stan was in there. Jason Fleming is one of the villains. But, yeah, pretty much as soon as it starts. Like, like, this is what these movies do, these really generic action movies, is just from the very start, like, in the first few seconds, you know exactly what this movie is, and that you've seen it 100 times before, if not 1,000 times before. You're gonna get a lot of, you know, bouncing around locations. You're gonna get, like, everywhere around the globe is gonna be seen, and the location is gonna come up in text on the screen literally every 2 fucking seconds. And there's gonna be generic action there, like random people shooting at other random people. Eventually we're gonna get the CIA headquarters is gonna be introduced. If anybody that's watched a movie like this doesn't know that CIA headquarters is in Lima, Virginia at this point, you're literally blind or illiterate, because it's in, like, every single one of these movies ever. And then, of course, we're introduced to Chastain and Sebastian Stan, and of course we have very forced chemistry, a very forced flirtation, and there's this, oh, are they going to do it or are they not kind of thing, but they also work together, how's that going to conflict? And all of these I just said, all of these cliches that you recognize, all these things that you get bombarded with in movies like this, I literally just described the first 10 minutes. Everything I just said is just in the first 10 minutes of this movie. And that's how quickly you realize, oh yeah, I've seen this movie about 100,000 times before. And I guess the difference they're trying to make is that it's women now, and it's giving women a chance to be badass and stuff like that. But no, that actually doesn't really change anything about this movie. I still feel like I've seen this movie 100,000 times before. And it was probably barely good, if at all, the first time. But these movies somehow just keep existing. And I don't quite know. And most of their audience, like the key audience, is probably going to completely forget that this exists. Like, if they actually go see it, they're going to completely forget about it by probably the end of that day. if not immediately as soon as they leave the theater. So that's what those are. And it doesn't help either that the director, like maybe a capable director, could have really done something with this. Maybe trouble is he was also a writer, and that is Simon Kinberg, as in the guy that brought us Dark Phoenix. And you might wonder, how in God's name did the guy that made Dark Phoenix, how was he ever allowed to make a movie again this soon? That's how Hollywood. He's just one of those guys. He's just one of those fucking Hollywood guys that's just around all the time, making shit and continuing to be allowed to. It's a mystery, but there's so many of those out there, and he's one of them. That's how this movie exists. And you watch this, and you can see, you know, Chastain and Diane Kruger and all of them running around. And it's like, because mainly Chastain and Diane Kruger get the most action to work with. So you see like Chastain, you know, throwing guys around or attempting to throw guys around, and Diane Kruger, you know, shooting this way and that, and Chastain shooting this way and that. And it's like, you get the sense they're running around a lot. You do get the sense they must have trained a lot for this. There must have been a lot of preparation. The physicality probably had to really be worked out a lot. And it's like, you can see them probably throwing their all into this, just really hoping that it turns out great. But the trouble is that's from an actor's perspective. If you look at the perspective from the writing and the director and even the studio, these are the kind of movies that those people just literally sleepwalk through. And it's just like, yeah, we're just churning another one of the. You have your actors over here just trying the best they can. You can maybe put some of it on Chastain being a producer, but, you know, Chastain tries so hard that it's like you can tell this is just like somebody with much more power was saying, oh, we're just turning out another one of these bullshits and I really don't care. And that's all that can really explain the existence of this movie. Like I said, like people like Simon Kinberg, where it's like, they're just part of the system. They're just ingrained in there. And most people don't care, so they just get to keep doing what they're doing. Even if reviews are constantly terrible surrounding them, that's just going to happen. These movies like this will just exist for pretty much no reason at all. and they'll just be out there, and you might catch them. You'll get your more forgiving people that'll catch it on Netflix one day and say, oh, I had nothing else to do, that was fine. And that will be the best review you get. And that's it. So, I guess we're gonna go a little bit into spoiler territory here, but I put some really, really massive air quotes around spoilers there. Because this is another one of those movies where just when you think it couldn't possibly be generic enough, this is one of those cases where we introduce a character that seems like they're a pretty main character, and they're played by a very familiar face, especially very popular right now in Sebastian Stan, and of course, they have a little bit of romance. They're like, they've worked together for a while, and it's like, oh, are we going to do it or we not? Yeah, they do it. Like in that first 10 minutes I was talking about, they just immediately. So there's not even room for chemistry. They just kind of kill it there. They just kind of nip it in the bud right there and say, well, we're just going to go ahead and do it because we got to set something else up, and that is Sebastian Stan being killed by Jason Fleming pretty much right after this. And so you sit there and you think, well, first off, there's so many things there. Number one, did they bring Sebastian Stan in just to kill him off that quickly? Probably not. But even if that were the case, even if you were completely unconvinced of this killing just because it's Sebastian Stan, there's also the execution of it, which is we cut away, we barely hear a gunshot, and it cuts to something else. And then somebody else just says, oh yeah, somebody in power just says, oh yeah, he's dead, I identified his body, the end. We don't see anything at all, and it's like, how stupid and blind and oblivious do people that make these kind of movies think the audience is? And it's like, sure, those people are probably out there. They're probably the kind of people that go to a movie like every once in a while, and then it's like, oh, this was fine for, you know, going out or whatever. The thing that kind of is the opposite of the Netflix thing, just in a theater, but it's... Yeah, so if you think Sebastian Stan's dead throughout this movie, I don't really know what to do with you. You can't be helped, that's for sure. So, then we just kind of have to wait for that to come back around, because when he comes back, do you think he's an ally, or do you think he's a villain? Take a wild fucking guess. So, in the meantime, until we're killing time for Sebastian Stan to come back, because we know he will. Um, this is one of those, I swear to God, this is one of those plots where everything revolves around a flash drive. Or just one of those things that they just throw into a plot that people can chase and be after. It starts with, like, Edgar Ramirez. I don't know why they cast him. He has nothing to do here. But then obviously it just starts changing hands, and it's obviously super, super dangerous. It can set off the world ending or some shit. It doesn't matter. The point is, oh, it's a flash drive and everybody needs it. And there's like over half the dialogue is, where's the flash drive? Give me the flash drive, etc. And it's like, how does something with so little thought at all and so incredibly, like you talk about, a lot of generic movies exist, but I mean, this is aggressively generic. This is like trying to beat you with a sledgehammer that has generic engraved on it. And I do and like, what do you even do with this? Like, what does it matter? And it's like, and everything in between just becomes irritating because they think they're playing you in some way. Like, every single time the death of Sebastian Stan's character was brought up, it's just so, you just immediately roll your eyes. Because it's like, it gets literally, all you're doing is killing time until he comes back, and then we're basically at the climax. One of like 3 climaxes, but we'll get to that. But in the meantime, of course, there's a not really dynamic going on here. Like, you have all these actresses here and all these characters coming from different places, and they're going to converge into this plot. And you might think that sounds interesting or something, but no. It almost gave me vibes of the shitty Suicide Squad from 2016, because obviously they all come from different places, they all have their own thing going on. Kruger started off as a villain, and then it's just with them. And then, yeah, there's one scene where they bond, and they exchange stories, and they're like, oh, look how human we are, where they're sitting in a bar. It's literally that stupid Suicide Squad scene. And you just don't feel anything at all. And you feel less the more you realize how much you're supposed to feel for the characters. Like, it just makes it worse the more they somewhat try to do that. And yet most of these actresses are wasted. Lupita is the hacker. So, naturally, when we have a character like this, you have this Oscar-winning actress who's been putting out so much amazing stuff. Like, the stuff she did in Us is so incredible. And then you look at this, and it's like, her job is to basically move her finger around on a phone and, like, maps and shit. This is one of those movies where the action scenes are half action scenes, half cutting to busy computer screens. You know exactly... And this movie exists too many times for you to not know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about when I say busy computer screens in an action scene. You know exactly what it is. Like, green grids and shit that mean nothing. They're just there. And they're supposedly telling you where shit is. And it's just a lot of zooming in on them. It's all of that. And then the action scenes themselves. Just a whole bunch of cutting. A whole lot of shooting at nothing. Like I said, there's these hand-to-hand scenes, but, like, they're so lurchy almost. Like, they don't even like, they try to cover that up as much as they can with just constant editing, and it's all just so sleep-inducing, I guess. You can tell how hard it's trying to be super, super exciting. The score especially is really overbearing. It's like, just fuck off. That's really the extent of the movie. Penelope Cruz is also particularly wasted. Where she's a therapist, and she's basically just roped into this. And it's one of those cases where she's gonna have, like, one use that you can see coming from a mile away, because she's so not as involved in them throughout. She's, like, almost kind of pulled along the whole time. It's all so blatantly obvious, and you can see every single move this movie makes literally after, like, the first 30 seconds, and after, like, each character's introduced. It's just a complete and total waste of time. And then, of course, like I was talking about, we get to multiple climaxes. We get to what is essentially the climax. And then when the credits should be rolling, there's still like 10 minutes left. Because we have a whole other ending for some reason. We have to stop Sebastian Stan twice. I know it's supposed to, because he has power and shit. But, I mean, it's it's just really there's no gratification to it because it's just you just want the fucking thing to end at this point. And it's like all right, and then after that, it's like they're trying to set up like they're going to be some kind of franchise or something, which is the most embarrassing thing that can happen to a movie that's as successful as this was. And it's like the way you couldn't. I would think Simon Kinberg's name would have been your first sign of, you know what, we can try to franchise this, but I can't put my finger on it. I have this sneaking suspicion that this isn't going to work out. But you know what? Let's try it anyway. Because how else do you end a movie like this? The way the rest of them end. Oh, we're going to continue, but you're probably not. So, that's what that was. We all love Chastain. We really do. And we love all these actresses. But, yeah, this was just a complete exercise in futility. So, that's it. So let's go on to The King's Daughter. And if you want to talk about a movie that has no reason to exist, how about a movie that tried really hard not to exist? I had no idea. I just assumed this was just some random movie that was made, maybe over COVID or something. And then just kind of pushing it out there. And it's like, whatever, here's some family movie because it's January and nobody gives a shit. So I looked farther into it after I saw it, and realized that this movie was shot in 2014, and was supposed to come out in 2015. It was 3 weeks before it was supposed to come out, and it just disappeared, without a trace. Paramount had it back then, and then they just basically said, you know what, we're just gonna throw this away 3 weeks before release. And apparently one of the reasons was the main reason supposedly was to perfect the visual effects. Which, if you actually watch the movie, is a load of absolute bullshit. I have no idea where those years went for this movie, but it was not into the effects, I guarantee it. So apparently it is based on a book that was very popular that I have not read. That surely makes it sound better. It makes it seem better. We got Julie Andrews' narration, which I'm sure is supposed to give it this sort of storybook feel. Not to mention the fact that we actually see a storybook turning as it starts. It's literally fucking Shrek when it starts and ends. And I kept getting this feeling we were supposed to get maybe like some Ella Enchanted vibes or something. But this movie looks too cheap to be that. It doesn't have the magic at all. And of course, we are introduced to Pierce Brosnan, who is the king. And immediately PTSD set in because of Cinderella that just happened. But this is a different king, with different motives and a different thing going on. Not near as fun of a performance that he gave, where he was the only one trying to save that movie. But he's got this whole thing going on where he is seeking immortality by way of the sacrifice of a mermaid during a lunar eclipse. Which, by the way, family movie. Family movie by way of, like, PG-rated Shape of Water is what it basically is. So, and we've got our lead actress here, Kaya Scodelario, and she's the title character, as you can guess, and she has a connection to this mermaid. She likes to stay in the water a lot, so clearly when she meets a mermaid, she's got a connection to it. But also the whole world doesn't know that she's Pierce Brosnan's daughter, so that has to be a secret as well. And this is all just a whole bunch of stuff happening. Very sort of disconnected, that just kind of really sloppily starts to converge here. You've also got the dude that found the mermaid, he's here as well. And then there's a forced arranged marriage kind of thing that comes in really late into the story. And you can tell there's supposed to be like a love triangle thing kind of going on here, because you got the guy that she's being set up with, who's this really, snotty-looking, clean-shaven, rich dude. And over here you've got Mr. Pirate Ship Guy, Benjamin Walker, who's got the long hair and the beard, and he looks like dirty and stuff like that. And take a wild guess which is the one she actually falls for. I'll give you a hint. The one that is played by her husband, Benjamin Walker. I'm assuming they met on. I think it said they got married in 2015, so I'm assuming they met on this, surely. And they're still together, which is great for them. So this movie has some sort of purpose. This movie changed somebody's life, so it did something. But by the way, Fan Bing, who we just talked about in 355, is the fucking mermaid. so, so there's some weird connection between these movies. Yeah, we get some scenes here in between that kind of show Brosnan as like a fun, likable character, even though he's sort of kind of off his rocker a bit with this whole immortality, killing mermaids thing. These scenes he has with this priest played by William Hurt, and it's like with these scenes where you see like, there's always movies like this where it's like made for like probably a younger audience. I can't really tell who this was made for, but you'll get those moments where if you get just the two right actors in the right place, it'll be like, man, I'd love to see them work together on a better movie with more interesting characters and stuff like that. And you get that vibe watching the two of them together in these scenes where they have these little comedic beats as they go kind of through their routine together, and we see their relationship. But that's about all this really has to offer, because there's nothing in regards to, even despite the fact that Cascavar and Benjamin Walker are married in real life now, there's still no real chemistry there. I mean, it's got to be the characters, I guess. But yeah, and there's also, she also has a friend character, and maybe this friend character was a bigger character in the book, because I would like to think a lot of this is explained away by it's probably in the book. But she's got a friend, a best friend character who I feel like we don't really see that much. She's just kind of there with her. And then towards the end, she says, "You have been a true friend." And it's like, really, I hadn't noticed. But alright, it feels like there was a whole something missing here. It does feel like there was a lot of editing that must have been going on also, because it felt like there was like kind of continuity all over the place too. For a movie that's coming out 8 years after it was shot, and 7 years after it was 3 weeks away from coming out, it suddenly feels like it was cobbled together. It's really weird. There's fuckery afoot with this movie. I don't know what was going on behind the scenes, but I feel like I don't want to know. I feel like there's like an espionage movie waiting to happen if you dig too deep into what was going on with this movie for a while there. Shrouded assassins will start coming for you and all that, Silkwood shit. If you look too far into what was going on with the production of this movie, the post-production of this movie, I guess you could call it that. Yeah, it has decent production values, I guess, a little bit, but there's also a lot of really obvious green screen in there, and especially when we get to like the CGI mermaid effects, look right out of like a cheap TV movie, which is what I was saying. I really don't buy this whole "that's what was holding this movie out for 7 years" thing. And sometimes I have trouble though, because it's like when you see something that feels like it's obvious green screen, sometimes it is obvious green screen, other times it's just like the effect of being shot on digital just makes a movie look faker than it's actually supposed to. But I feel like a lot of this was just subpar effects. So there is that. And there's a lot going on. It's supposed to be a father-daughter thing. It's supposed to be finding someone that can be this. She keeps saying that she wants somebody to belong to, which I don't know about the phrasing on that, but I get what she means. She wants like a family, and then there's the whole love story thing, and it's like it's trying to do a whole lot, and it just feels like there's nothing. It just feels like a nothing movie, much like the 355. It's a movie that's just gonna come and go. I have no idea how it's in theaters right now. It's all the award stuff that hasn't gotten wide releases yet, and this is in like every theater. I don't know. It's all bullshit. So that's really all there is to talk about here. That's all these movies have to offer. There's no reason for either one of these to exist. And you could say it's January, sure, but I mean, we still got Scream, and we've been getting more stuff. Like the whole "oh, it's January, it must be terrible" thing isn't really a thing anymore. I feel like Split was kind of the start of January kind of being like, okay, especially for horror, January could be a decent place to be, but yeah, there is still obviously that whole thing going on here where it's like we're still dealing with awards movies and stuff is slowly expanding that was already out, so January is just fuck it territory. But while we do have stuff like, Scream that comes along, yeah, these are still just waiting to die somewhere. So, and it's weirdly enough, they're deciding to take up screens at a theater instead of just going to streaming, where where they might actually be liked by somebody, because you know people give lots of a shit, I guess. So that's what these two are. But like I said, I don't know that anybody's here, so I don't even know who I'm talking to. But because who gives a shit about these two? Like I said, I wouldn't have if it weren't for the fact that we just kind of got to get the year rolling. So there it is. When we get to February, there'll be more stuff coming out that'll be like, I'm genuinely interested to see that. So, uh, yeah. And then obviously we have awards movies coming. Like I'm getting ready to go see Licorice Pizza and Macbeth finally. So there'll be that at least, hanging out here after this. So, and more awards talk videos, like predictions and talking about guilds and all that. And so, until whatever's next, I think that's it.